A fantasy world is only exciting if it makes you want to keep exploring after the first few hours. Farever tries to do exactly that with an online multiplayer action RPG built around open world exploration, dungeons, crafting, platforming, and real-time combat. In this review, we are taking a closer look at Farever's gameplay, world design, combat, visuals, sound, atmosphere, pros, cons, value for money, and final score. Farever is an online multiplayer fantasy action RPG set in a large open world. You explore wild areas, fight enemies, enter dungeons, craft better gear, and slowly build your character through adventure and progression. The core gameplay loop is simple but effective. You move through the world, collect resources, take on enemies, upgrade your equipment, and search for new areas to discover. The game mixes action combat with platforming, which helps the world feel more physical than a basic point-and-click RPG. Movement matters, positioning matters, and the game is clearly trying to keep the player active instead of just following quest markers. Combat is easy to understand. It is not overly complex, but it has enough energy to keep the adventure moving. Dodging, attacking, and navigating the environment give fights a decent rhythm, especially when you are exploring with other players. The multiplayer side is one of the biggest selling points. Farever feels like the kind of game that becomes more enjoyable when you are discovering areas, clearing dungeons, and crafting gear with friends. Visually, the game uses a bright fantasy style. It does not aim for ultra-realistic detail, and that is probably the right choice. The colors, environments, and character presentation give the world a friendly adventure tone. Some areas still feel like they could use more polish, but the overall art direction is clear and easy to read. Sound and music support the fantasy atmosphere without becoming the main highlight. The audio works well enough during exploration and combat, but stronger music identity could make the world feel more memorable in future updates. The story is more about atmosphere than deep narrative. Farever works best when you approach it as a shared fantasy adventure, not as a cinematic story-driven RPG. The fun comes from exploring, fighting, crafting, and seeing what the world has to offer. The main pros are the accessible gameplay, colourful world, multiplayer support, crafting, dungeon exploration, and the strong foundation for future growth. The main cons are also clear. The game still feels like early access. Some systems need more depth, some content needs more variety, and long-term progression will be very important if the game wants to keep players invested. For value, Farever is easier to recommend if you enjoy early access games and want to support a project that is still developing. If you want a fully polished fantasy RPG right now, you may want to wait. But if you like online action RPGs with exploration and co-op potential, there is already something here. Farever is a promising online fantasy action RPG with enjoyable exploration, accessible combat, and a world that has room to grow. It is not fully there yet, but the foundation is strong enough to keep an eye on. Final score, 7.2 out of 10. If this review helped you decide whether Farever is worth playing, leave a like, subscribe for more game reviews, and comment below if you would play this solo or with friends.